All
Roll.
right, quiet then.
All right. Call meeting to order.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yes, sir.
In my opinion, as a board, I think you've lost your way in making decisions regarding your responsibilities to protect the purpose and viability of Pack Place as an education, arts, and science center. Your actions indicate the board is focused on leasing issues only and not on the full purpose of Pack Place, arts, education, and science. You're letting the partners decide the future in violation of the partnership agreement. There's an unwillingness to confront the Asheville Art Museum for numerous violations of partnership agreement and resolution 2003. They're allowing the Colburn Earth Science Museum to be bullied out of the building, thus losing the only science partner you have. You've not followed your action to require detailed response to your motion to consider direct leasing. You've allowed the Asheville Art Museum to manipulate its way into dealing directly with the city of Asheville in violation of the partnership agreement and the 2003 resolution. You have created fear of loss of jobs and absence of public support among Pack Place staff. You appear to be hesitant to take likely legal action necessary to stop the city of Asheville from this hostile takeover. And you have not taken a sufficient public stand to protest the action of the city council. And too many of you are still saying or implying, I don't know what's going on. Do you realize the Asheville City Council just passed a capital budget for 2015, removing the Asheville Art Museum renovations for 2014 as an economic development project? In place of that, it appears they're funding Pack Place capital improvements under a maintenance budget for 2017. How's that for you when Gary Jackson pressed the Pack Place board to fund $800,000 plus immediately needed capital improvements? What is immediate about funding in 2017?
Ken.
Do you have a time limit set?
Well, you're not a member of the board, you're not staff, okay? And so I'm going to ask you to put the rest of your comments in writing. We'll circulate that, I promise, to the board members. All right, call the meeting to order. We have, everybody's received the June minutes. Any comments, questions, suggestions, recommendations? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, executive committee report, and all this kind of runs together. I've had Heather put lease termination issue on the agenda as well, just to give it a name. But basically, we just need to talk about where we are with the lease issues. There've been lots of activity, lots of people spending lots of time, lots of energy working on the thing since we were here last. That's for sure. And the role of Pack Place has changed throughout the month as well. As you remember, last month, we passed a formal resolution requesting that the city renew the lease and keep that legal option open. And since that time, been working on trying to resolve the lease issues between the city and everyone else. Just to take a couple steps of the Pack Place role. You know, the executive committee, which has been kind of hands-on with the day-to-day negotiations on this thing, and Mary, who's been on the hour-to-hour negotiations on this thing. Basically, our position had been that we would, at their request, let the theater, the art museum, and the Colburn negotiate their direct leases as best they could, and see if they could come up with something that was satisfactory with them. At that point then, Pack Place's role would be clearer and we would know what we were going to do. It's been a week or two ago now, but we changed direction at one point because we felt like that we were not making good progress. We had a strict deadline coming up. We had to move on. and that it may be useful to have Pack Place also negotiating with the city. And so we instructed Mary to pick up on what we all call the two lease option, which is direct lease with the art museum, direct lease with Pack Place. The Pack Place then turns around, under the plan agreement or some other arrangement, passes the space through to the Colburn and DWT. So the Pack Place role in the negotiations changed at least for a while, and Mary's been very busy meeting with the lawyers in particular and the executive committee, trying to get something moving from that point of view. Just before we came, well, the basic notion was that if the Colburn was leaving and the parties were the art museum, which has its own direct lease pretty much in its sites, and the DWT, that we were really had lost our collaborative notion because we were down to two tenants basically. When there were three, then some of the old Pack Place structure may better serve everybody, which was the way we were approaching it. Shortly before the meeting, we got a call from Kerry Friedman, who represents the Colburn, and he says that they want to go forward with their own direct lease negotiations with the city, rather than doing it sort of through Pack Place the way we had been talking until 30 minutes ago. So that will change direction again on how we handle these direct leases going forward. Is that something that's fair statement of where we are?
So, Ed, are you saying that Colburn is going to stay now?
No, it's not about that. It's about whether Colburn negotiates a direct lease with the city or it negotiates, basically gets leased by way of Pack Place, which is the tenant, and then.
But that
But if
space,
they're leaving, why do they need a lease?
The Colburn has gone on record and has said to me personally that the only reason they're leaving is because the structure of Pack Place is changing. So they won't have access to restrooms, they won't have access to the forum, they won't have access to bus parking, entry, and other issues. If everything stayed the same, they would stay. If the art museum gets a direct lease and the rest of the building is potentially another direct lease, they have no choice, according to them.
But nobody's pursuing leaving it the way it is.
Actually, Pack Place did pursue that. I mean, that
That
offer has
That's
been
the
sent to the
two-lease
city. Well, the staying exactly how it has been is the offer that was sent to the city after the last board meeting.
Again, I don't understand. Okay.
I don't quite understand that either. Are they staying in that space or not? Regardless of the negotiation, are they going to be in that
At
spot?
least for a year is my understanding, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, my understanding is that the Colburn has said they will leave if they get some funding and they find a new place. I'm not aware that any of that funding has shown up, and I'm not aware that they found another place, so I don't think I think there's a lot of things that need to happen for them to be able to move in the summer of 15, and it would not surprise me at all if they were here beyond that window.
And I'm sorry that nobody here from Colburn today, because when we talking to him, Vicky's not here and stuff, they said he couldn't come.
And that's why I spoke on that.
So we have one tenant who says that they will leave if things don't stay the same.
Well, that's not what they told us officially. What they told us is that we are leaving and we'll be gone within a year.
So that precipitates the theater asking for a direct lease now.
Right, right. We've spent the last couple of weeks on the two lease option, our museum, Pack Place, and now we're back to the three lease option, our museum, theater, Colburn.
So why are any of us still here?
Up until 30 minutes ago, I thought that we were going to be negotiating lease with the city.
Up until 30 minutes ago?
Yeah, well, maybe 38 minutes ago.
And who told you that you're not?
Carrie.
Carrie
Friedman,
Friedman.
who's the lawyer for the Colburn. Hey, lawyers, yeah, all these lawyers.
I think things are moving much too fast for old people like me.
They're moving in circles, and that's the
Yeah,
problem.
Right, that's.
And ever tightening
Well-
circles.
I don't know, let me jump in and sort of give you my perspective. And
the news about Coburn is new to me. What you said, you just learned it a very short while.
Mary called me at 3:48.
The question is, to me, the essential question is there a role for Pac Place going forward in whatever comes out of it? And in the efforts that I've been spending over the last 2 months to get up to speed and reviewing documents and so forth and talking to folks, I think there is. I think if you have 3 direct leases, there's still a role, but I don't think that's the best way to go. I think there's a need for probably a revamped Pac Place that would serve as an advocate for the facility as a whole, serve as a coordinator in terms of the spaces that will absolutely have to be common spaces and be shared by the various entities that are leasing space in the building to help manage all of that. I know at least some of the partners have indicated on occasion, don't know whether it's still true or not, that some of the basic maintenance, janitorial, cleaning, scheduling, they don't want to have to put up with. So I think there's a role. I think that role is probably enhanced if, well, let me say, first of all, I certainly understand and support the art museum need for a direct lease. But I think if the other 2 partners were under a sublease with Pac Place, it enhances the ability of Pac Place to serve that facilitating, coordinating role that I was just talking about. And to continue with some of our basic duties as outlined in the agreement that everybody is party to right now. So that's sort of where I come from. And I'd like to continue to try and pursue a sublease to the 2, to Coburn and Diana Wortham. Maybe talk to Coburn and see if they're more amenable to that than they may have indicated so far, and talk to the city and see.
We have talked at length with the Colburn and it's something that's gone back and forth, and I think that it's a question for them of negotiation position and feeling like they're making their own headway, versus if they sort of leave it in Pac Place's hands and they feel like they're taking a backseat when they are looking at a very limited deadline of August 1, being day after any actual lease agreement is in existence right now. So up until very, very recently, I would have thought that Colburn definitely wanted to proceed with negotiations through Pac Place. I don't think that they necessarily expect Pac Place to stop negotiating, but it does put you in sort of an unusual position, having 4 negotiations, including the art museum, going on at the same time, to some extent for Oakland.
Well, I think to me, the way to go about it is to, first of all, take a strong advocacy position with the city that that's what this place really needs. Do the direct lease with the art museum, do subleases through Pac Place for the rest of the space, and leave this entity in place to serve that buffering, coordinating, facilitating role that I just talked about.
Disperse the county money.
Right.
Okay, question. If we did what you said, Charlie, and I'm glad you're here, Richard, because, the redheaded stepchild has always been the YMI. If we kept that, what you're saying, is there a way that we could better pull the YMI in to coordinate and give attention to?
Sure.
If we kept that, is the city the bad guy in this? That seems to
I
be
don't
why
think
we.
I don't think anybody's a bad guy necessarily.
Well, we seem to have been pushed to our limits by the city. No offense, I'm just, is that true, Mark, or not?
Yeah, the cities, I mean, I'll repeat what I said last month. You know, we made it very clear back in the winter that there was dysfunction in the property management aspects, that there was a failure to fund capital maintenance
Prove
needs.
it.
Excuse me, let me finish, Barbara. And that the city, in order to move forward, the best way the city could advance things would be to look at direct leases. And it was, I mean, we laid it out very clearly back in the winter that that the city would intend to move down that path of talking to each of the occupants about direct leases. Esther came to this room in a meeting this board, said, but we remain open to alternative arrangements. And by the way, let's get those on the table right away, because we don't want to be talking about it in the 2 or 3 weeks prior to the lease expiration. So, I mean, you know, I think there's been plenty of time, Patsy, to consider everything that's been suggested here today. And a lot of it has been talked about in small settings and you know, in one-on-one, small group conversations, including between the attorneys. So that's kind of where we are. You know, I would not agree that the city here at the 11th hour has put anybody's back to the wall. I think we, even before this past winter, you know, going back last fall and last summer, there was a lot of discussion about, you know, having this become a rational, well-organized way for the
This is
occupancy.
clearly a power struggle. Who gets control? What? The building.
Between who? City council and our board? But what's best for the constituency? This is the public's building. I mean, there's gotta be a common sense approach to this. It's not really our money, and it's not our building. I think we just gotta make a hard decision. And nothing stays the same. Everything around us changes. So how can we adapt, how can this board adapt to the change that's going on around us?
Well, that's sort of what I was trying to address. You know, like I say, I'm 2 months on the board, so I've been trying to do a rush job to look at the history, look at the old agreements, go all the way back to when the Health Adventure moved out and all the resolutions and so forth, when the Art Museum indicated a desire for the space, and look at what's happened ever since. And I've tried to come up with my own thoughts about what is best for the community and for all of the partners, and what kind of structure would be best. The fear that I have on 3 separate direct leases is that there is no
Connecting tissue.
no connecting issue, no coordinating mechanism for those things that clearly will have to be coordinated in the operation of this building. Maintenance, where the responsibility for maintenance is, capital needs, to the extent that those aren't covered as requirements in the leases, and even coordinating them if they are covered in the leases. And that's why I think it's important for either this board to remain in place, probably under some necessary restructuring, or for some other entity, to be there to fulfill that role.
Well, if the city's gonna provide a direct lease, I wonder if they will also provide staff to do exactly what Charlie just described. Will the city, if they're gonna be the landlord, then do you have to have a landlord?
I mean, in the absence of anybody else, the city would have to, but I'm not sure the city would want to do that. I'm not sure that's really a role for the city.
And maybe
It certainly hasn't been a historical role. And Mark, I certainly understand your concern about past history and past things that haven't been done. I'm trying to share with you what I see from my perspective developed in a relatively short period of time.
Maybe you better want to look at it for a while.
Well, from other angles. For other angles.
Can I just ask a more a question of how things would flow. So we're sitting here on, was it July 10th or whatever, the Pac Place has formally asked for a renewal of its lease. The only thing we could ask for is a 10-year renewal. In that process, we recognize that negotiations are ongoing and going on, et cetera. What happened on August 1? If 3 new leases haven't been achieved, has there been a city kind of counter to our request, or do we automatically renew, or does it automatically go into the fall? What happens August 1 if 3 new leases aren't signed?
The lease that you currently have would terminate. You would be in a holdover tenancy.
And
It
so
would
what does that
be,
mean from a
there would
practical
be, from a practical standpoint, unless the city acted nothing, the city would have a right at that point to change the tenancy situation of the building. And that's, would be the case in any kind of lease termination situation like that. I think the lease extension would provide a notice to quit of, what was it, was that the 30 days?
30 days.
30 days. At that point, I mean, obviously, Pac Place in the city, I think, would disagree over whether that was a lessee termination or a lessor termination. We could fight that out, but potentially, it could be a very quiet day, and it could be a very noisy.
And that's a concern of mine, is that this is the last board meeting we'll have before the lease term ends. And if we are able to reach some sort of agreement, something, then we very likely require some board action between now and August the 1st.
Is there anything to vote on today?
No,
We can leave.
don't leave that.
Question. This lady, won't it be,
No,
won't there be
I
something to vote
don't,
on?
I have been to every meeting for the last, I probably missed maybe 2 meetings in the last 5 or 6 years. I still don't understand what the city thinks it's doing. I would like to see proof that the Pac Place board has not maintained the building. I would like to see, I'd like to see something besides the accusations from the art museum that the existing mechanical system that was never designed to do what they would like it to do doesn't do what they would like it to do. What else is wrong? The toilets work, the water works, everybody gets, there's toilet paper when you go in the bathrooms, everything is clean until the art museum pulled the carpet up and completely screwed up the building, made it look awful. Everything is painted, there's no sheetrock damage. Just what in the hell is wrong, and what do you guys think you're going to do by taking it over? You can redo it, but you can't make something that was built and designed 22 years ago look any better than it looks right now, or work any better than it works.
Barbara, I understand how you feel.
The staff does a good job. So what in the hell are we doing wrong? And if this is the last meeting and we have nothing to vote on, then there's no reason for me to be
Well, it's
here.
not true we have nothing to vote on. I'm just interested in the question. I thought you meant that we can vote on the lease or something like that. We do have other things to vote on. And one is that, and this will require a little discussion, is what do we want to do about the prospect that we may have to take some board action before our next board meeting, before August 1st? We can check on people's availability for a special meeting, special call meeting. We can give the executive committee authority to sign off on stuff, and then we can do a couple of different things. But I don't want to leave today without some plan about what we're going to do when all these leases get negotiated and require some board action. We need to be able to take that action.
May I ask a question? So I guess the city, we say August 1st is the deadline, but the only other city council meeting before August 1st is July 22nd. So what's the deadline? August 1st, July 22nd.
Well, Gary and Esther Mannheimer penciled in space in the agenda on August 22nd to,
July.
excuse me, you're right, July 22nd, which is our meeting, as you know, to consider final forms of leases, one or more leases.
And what happens if those leases have not been created, finalized?
Well, I think Mary, I mean, Fred, would you disagree with Mary's description of, you know, the ways it might go? I would say that if, you know, if there's a scenario, for instance, if the city had, if there were direct lease with the art museum that got approved, but then perhaps with Colburn, and one or two of those got approved, but there was progress underway with Donald Theater or with some arrangement that had Pack Place playing a role, and it seemed productive, then come August 1st, I could very well see, I can't remember the term you used, Mary, the holdover tenancy. You know, the city is not eager to show up with the sheriff and evict anybody on August 1st. I want to make that clear. But as Esther made clear in February, you know, the city demands progress toward a rational, manageable
But we've been
future.
trying to get there. Can you explain why we haven't gotten there?
You know, I think the city has been, Fred, how many days since February have you not worked on this project? I mean, the city
We've
is.
worked on the same thing
Yeah.
too, and it just is not that quick a scenario.
All right, what's gonna happen to the money at the community foundation? Is it just gonna go to the city?
No, it cannot go to the city. We met with the
Is
community
it gonna go to the
foundation.
art museum?
No.
All right, what's
If-
gonna happen to the county?
He's about to tell you. He's gonna tell you.
All right, tell me. And how, and I'd really like to know.
The funds, if there is some semblance of Pack Place remaining, the funds can still be used for the benefit of this building. The ultimate authority the community foundation has, and it's in their agreements, is that if the purposes for which the funds were set up can no longer be met, then the community foundation board can redirect those funds to some other, similar to the extent possible, as similar public.
So the community council becomes
They
the Pack Place
can
board.
ultimately take over control depending on what came out of the arrangements here and how this
So
structure ended up.
community foundation becomes the Pack Place board.
Well, no, they
Well, they can do that right now.
No, they don't,
They would
they
actually
don't, they don't become the Pack Place
But
board.
Anything that's in endowed, permanently endowed funds would remain permanently endowed funds. Anything that wasn't permanently endowed, I got the impression would become permanently endowed.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't know what.
You get the income, you don't get to touch
One thing, the reason why we met with them was to find out what authority we had as part of negotiations to change the terms of the endowment. And the answer is none, that it can't be changed. That where it stands now is where it will always stand. If there's a complete, disengagement of the Pack Place board, I mean, if we just go away, then the community foundation board has to decide what to do about the money. But it has to be used in a way that's consistent, no matter what, used in a way that's consistent.
And that does not necessarily mean it has to go to Pack Place, but it has to be used in a way as consistent as possible in the determination of the community foundation board as it could be with the original terms.
Ed, may I'm sorry for being late, but I think since you,
You missed the thing.
I knew you would start when I got here. Since you mentioned Pack Place Board going away and money and that idea is floating around, I did talk to Wanda Green this morning, and as you all know, they passed the budget, the commissioners passed the budget last night. The $409,000 for the operation of Pack Place Board was in the budget. 19,000 of that assigned to the YMI, is part of the YMI. Colburn did get funding for a special project of a little over $16,667. The word from Dr. Green this morning is this money comes directly to Pack Place Board. If Pack Place Board is no longer in existence, the direction is that they are to go back to the commissioners to see if the money comes at all. So I think that's probably something that needs to be done.
I think the prospect that Pack Place will go away as an organization anytime soon is pretty slim. I think we were talking long term. But you did raise something else that was a news item this morning, which is, as I think everybody knows, for years and years and years, Pack Place has been contributing to YMI by paying for custodial, paying for insurance, paying for something else.
Custodial wages and supplies.
Okay, custodial wages, supplies, and insurance. And what we learned from the county allocation is that $19,000 has been taken off the top of the Pack Place allocation and given directly to the YMI. And they'll use that money now to do what we formerly did for them. And you know, we didn't know that was being asked for. I don't think it matters a whole lot to us, but us being the Pack Place board.
And another thing that Dr. Green mentioned this morning that you all may have already discussed is the $250,000 there was some discussion about from the county to the art museum goes when there is a nail in the wood and not prior to. Am I right about that?
That's right.
So, and
that's part of the capital campaign.
Right, and no other allocations coming from the county to another entity here. That's my report.
Thank you very much.
Done.
We would all do news, you see, so it's easy to get those kinds of reports.
I love that kind of report.
All right. I want to talk about what we're going to do if we got to take some action before August the 1st. Hey,
Just call me.
well, I'm concerned that we got this 10-member rule. I'm concerned it's July, you know. We can call in and so forth, but let's talk about it. You know, this is a problem for us to solve together. How many people are going to be here for the month of July? Okay. Is anybody be gone?
I'm going to be gone the 22nd, but David and I are going to be gone the 22nd through roughly the 1st of August.
All right.
Let's meet the 25th.
We are, in theory, able to do a call-in any of those days except Thursday and Friday, the 24th and 25th.
I'll be gone next week. I can see me. Yeah, I can see me. What'd you say, Michael?
I'm not the last week of the month I'm out.
Okay.
But in 3 o'clock.
Okay, all right. Based on that, we may be able to pull it off, if everybody commits to make the best efforts to participate either by phone or otherwise. It could be a long, complicated meeting, so.
I'm not sure I have a phone line, so that many people calling.
Would you want to pencil in a potential time block, just to make sure everybody can look at their calendars and do it, not a call meeting, but a potential?
Does it need to be before or after city council, the 22nd, or does that matter?
I don't think that matters.
Okay.
I guess the only question would be whether or not city council is comfortable voting on a lease agreement that Pack Place has not voted on. If it's a lease agreement with the executive committee supports.
A lease agreement between the city and,
Potentially Pack Place, in the event that Pack Place needs to try and get something put together at the end of the month.
it would probably be, Fred, correct me, it would probably be the city's preference that the full Pack Place board would approve anything. I'm not sure that who approves first is necessarily that big a deal. I mean, I think the city council would want to have confidence that it's, you know, there's a sense among board members of Pack Place that this is a final form document. Does that make sense?
Presumably, whatever came before city council or came before the board would be something that people would agree to, you know, that somebody agreed
Oh,
to.
yeah.
You know, so-
Yeah, we try to not have to reduce.
No unilateral action around here. Okay, well, the 22nd, I mean, I'll be gone the week of the 14th. I don't see, the week of the 21st is a good week for me. The week of the 28th is actually, we've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that week. We may want to shoot for the last week, the 28th and 29th. I'm looking for comments, conversation.
I'm available by call.
Well, what I would suggest then is that we pencil in Wednesday the 30th, okay? Wednesday being a day we meet anyway, at 4 o'clock, being the time we meet anyway. And of course, we'll let you know that we're actually going to do it. Pencil that in for now, Mark, I thought that was a good idea. I mean, because we'll just, who knows what we're gonna cross up. I'm through talking about leases unless other people have issues.
We're through listening to.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the finance report then. Michael?
Well, given the clarity, the first thing I'll pass around is the nearly, or the fairly finalized kind of year-end report on the finances for Pack Place through the end of June. A lot of the numbers will look familiar. If you look at the revenue side, the revenues exceeded the budget, 573 to 484. That is a $120,000 draw from the endowment that went to cover the roof, is what skews that revenue number pretty dramatically. Now, otherwise, most other things were in the ballpark. Again, kind of interestingly, the public space rental and event manager service was a highlight that was significantly better than we thought. There is the line item of capital funds to be raised, $36,000 that we did not raise here. I'll talk about our expense line here shortly. If you go down to the expenses, a couple of highlights in that first grouping under general and administrative. Professional fees of $21,000 was nearly double the budgeted amount of $12,000. I think everyone knows that is legal fees at the Pack Place level as we're working through this transition. The other item that jumps out under building operations is building maintenance of $62,000 versus $40,000 budgeted. One of the questions Heather's going to look into, within our endowed funds, if something is going to be around for more than 3 years and cost more than, I think it's $2,000 or $3,000, $5,000, we can seek reimbursement out of our endowed funds. We think there might be a little bit of money that we can potentially draw into the revenue side from endowments to cover some of that building maintenance, because we did spend, $62,000, $63,000 on the general maintenance and repair items. These are the repairing the sheetrock and making sure the elevators work, et cetera. So the capital repair in progress expense item just under to $119,000, and that was the roof repair that we did. So that's that obviously correlates with the drop in the endowment. Utilities actually came in pretty close to where we thought they would. There's a unique item where it just shows utilities, which is above and beyond the electricity, natural gas, sewer, and water. And that's just a difference between the bills that are coming in and what the county pays. I guess what the county pays versus the bills that are coming in, and it relates to the county accounting system. Apparently, and just some of the trying to get the numbers to correlate. That was about a $2,000 number last year. It's about a $4,000 number this year. The other large item that we're not showing in an expense number is the $36,000 in capital repair and reserve. And I'll make a comment on that in just a second. So if you look at the bottom line, the bottom line is the Pack Place had a negative net income of $28,000. If you sort through all the numbers, it was basically an additional $10,000 on professional fees and additional $20,000 on building maintenance and repairs. So that's the $30,000 differential, given all moving parts as a general comment. The other capital repair and reserve number is not included in that. So if we include the $36,000 of capital repair and reserves that we've not put in, we would then be up to about $55,000 in a net loss. the contributions from partners has historically been the plug figure in terms of how we balance that out. And I don't have any recommendation right now on Pac Place from a meeting its bills standpoint. Is currently able to cover those. We are awaiting the payment from the county that will come in on August 1st. That will allow us to pay some bills and some expenses that we've held back. I think it's going to be a very interesting question as Pac Place sits here with the uncertainty of what might happen in the next week or next month. If we end up going to separate leases, I think there's a question that is a combination of a Pac Place fiduciary question as well as a community building and a community service question. You know, if Pac Place can meet its bills, do we try to request $50,000 from the partners just to balance Pac Place books? Is that the right thing from the community standpoint? Is that the right thing from the fiduciary standpoint? I raised that question for people to ponder, not for action today, unless someone wants to call a more immediate action to that question. And Mark, I know you've been a strong proponent of funding the capital repair reserve. Given the current situation, do you think we need to take stronger action, or are you comfortable with monitoring it right now?
What I would say, Mike, I appreciate your perspective and looking at this comprehensively here. And Carol made the point that if things change, then Wanda feels the duty or is under the directive to take things back to the commissioners. And it's always risky. I think, Carol, all of you who have been elected officials before that, to wait for politicians to decide where the chips might fall. I would think that as the situation clarifies, hopefully, for how things will be over the next few months, that the budget for next year sort of be a proactive one that addresses these questions you brought up, but importantly lays out for the commissioners and the community, here's a way for this to move forward financially, and County Commission, please stick with us through this, or please go with us and support us in this way. As for the capital maintenance funding, that's something that I think the city is looking more toward whatever the future arrangement is going to be as opposed to the current budget. So that's what I would say about that specific part. But I'll just say, I think there's an opportunity to help frame, kind of a viable financial flow here that we can help others see and get on. Because I can tell you my experience with the commissioners, there are about 7 different views about what's going on and how things should be. And I think they could use the leadership. Wouldn't you agree, Carol?
I agree with that totally.
Well, they're counting on us to come back to them for next year, basically, with a good solid organization, that shows them how the money's going to be collected and how it's going to be spent. That was a conversation we had with the CRA. It's a little easier to talk to the CRA than it is to just talk to the commission, but it's still the same message.
And of course, and you all may have discussed this, the CRA is no longer, so things do go directly to the commission, so that's.
It's true. It literally does not exist.
It does
as
not
of about
exist.
10 days ago. The legislature abolished it. It became law.
Prior to July the 1st, organized after the 1st, disorganized before the 1st of the next year. So it was in existence 11 months and a few days. Took a lot of effort though, didn't it?
Yeah, really. The whole thing was crazy. Yeah. All right, thank you.
There's another second. So the next one is the operating budget for the next 12 months. Again, subject to some changes potentially. This was the preliminary operating budget that we actually submitted to the county back in February, and then given some adjustments, we tweaked it a little bit. I think that one of the biggest potential challenges if you look at proposed 2015, we show the revenues being slightly lower than the new county, the proposed county funding, and I compliment Heather for getting those adjustments in this morning. If you look at the the lower county funding and then the lower, the expenses that we would have incurred for YMI, it does end up generating a deficit for us. We are still trying to figure out exactly how to balance it all. Again, the plug figure in this is the capital funds to be raised at $36,000. If $36,000 is raised, that comes back to the partner contributions to fill in that gap. But we do have a preliminary budget. We've had a preliminary budget in the past. Again, we have not voted on a final budget for the fiscal year that we are currently in. And the main reason is that we don't know what this year is going to look like. Hopefully we will by early August. I'm not even sure we will at that point, but I think I feel good about the structure of the organization to get through this intermediate time, and depending on where things go, the numbers will change dramatically.
Question, what was the amount that was going into YMI or the budget?
Last fiscal year was just over 10,000.
So 19,000 left from our revenue side, about 10,000 will be removed from the expense side.
Any questions for Michael about the budget? This is going to require a vote, right?
This is still the preliminary budget. The preliminary budget was approved, but the final budget, I think, is too much.
I will not do any raises until post-August 1st.
Do we even need to vote? I mean, we're obviously not going to have a budget until next year.
Right. Well, we adopted a preliminary budget last month to get us through this month, I thought.
Based on this morning's information, this has to be rewritten.
Yeah.
So let's just a continuation of this until August, just a little, because again, I think between now and August, I think there'll be a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And I don't know which way to move it.
There's no way that this is going to be what we do actually for the next year. That's for certain. Was everybody comfortable with that? We continue operating under the budget we adopted last month, which is basically just the status quo until we get things sorted out.
And I'm just like, for us to be on record in thanking Michael for doing all this financial stuff together for his.
As a comment I would add, I want to thank Heather. I think everyone realizes this, but I think it's worth saying is that Heather doesn't know if she's going to have a job, 5 months from now or maybe 2 months from now. I mean, there has been uncertainty in her position, and she's been doing yeoman's work, with the financials, with a lot of things going on in the building. And I think the board needs to recognize her. I think Heather's been doing a great job in very unusual and interesting times, and in circumstances that are I'm sure challenging from an employee standpoint. So Heather, I want to thank you.
I hope you don't mind if I share that with the rest of our staff.
No, please don't. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you for all of that. Heather, do you have a report?
I have a little bit of a report. We celebrated our 22nd anniversary in the lower lobby by the donor wall. There are some pictures on your agenda. We had about 30 people show up, but of that, only one was an intentional visitor. The rest were staff, and of the 30 or 40, only one intentional visitor. It was good. The Pepsi, who was a patron donor, donated Pepsi, and we got the cake from Ingalls Markets, who was a founding donor. There's been an increase in graffiti and vandalism. Vandalism is mostly to interior restrooms, exterior graffiti that we continue to work on. We'll work with the city on their new graffiti program on one of the larger tabs.
Do you get a sense that's targeted to Pack Place, or that's just general
I
downtown
think that's
graffiti?
citywide. The internal might be targeted to Pack Place because some of it happens on a Monday where we're closed to the public. Other than that, when things break, we fix them, and when things get dirty, we clean them. We will be firing Theodore Filson, who will be hired by the YMI Cultural Center. He's our longest standing employee. He's been at Pac West for 15 years, minus the 1 year from 07 when county took him over. And so that'll be a fun thing for me to do tomorrow.
I don't think it's any big deal.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He did it in 07.
It's a transition, not a fire.
Firing is not
But I just wanted to
fair.
recognize his 15 years of service. So,
His employer was.
Well, he's not gonna stop
he's being
getting service.
transferred. No, to Pac Place though. It's 15 years of service to both the YMI and Pac Place.
He's worked here too?
Our employee.
He's worked on this building?
He's been on
No,
our
he's
payroll.
been on our payroll
Yeah.
and works with our employees.
He can still come by.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He's not going anywhere. He's getting his check from a different place.
I just wanted to recognize that he was the longest standing Pac Place.
Well, he's one of our longest standing, he is our longest standing employee, or by a long shot.
Theodore Wilson.
So, just a quick question. So in the future, will YMI be submitting its own request to the county?
Yep.
And that's all I've got, unless you have questions for me.
Thank you. I'm delighted to say that we're all the way down to member reports. So wherever we start, John, you're there.
Oh, there's been emailing its attorney, talking to its attorney, and meeting its attorney. Oh, and we've been doing a few other things. Just for information, we just put with the closing the year, going back to fiscal year 13 to 14, the number of events that will be hosted, and this is just in the theater, not in the forum, grew by 9%, total attendance grew by 6% that fiscal year. Upcoming this weekend, we have Motion Dance, which we talked about before. This is Nick Kepley, who grew up in this area. He's now the ballet master with Austin Ballet 2, and this is their 4th or 5th year of doing a choreography workshop in this area. It's their 3rd year with us, where they bring in dancers who are off contract with major regional ballet companies, and 3 choreographers. And so this Friday and Saturday, we will actually have world premieres of brand new work, but everything on the stage will be the work that's been created for the we have our annual preview party coming up, and we announce our new season, and of course it's going to be our biggest and best ever. Going to receive a number of sponsors from individuals who's grown, the project was diminished. The Mountain Dance and Folk Festival, the last 2 days of July, first Saturday in August coming up. And then Asheville Ballet is doing a commission work with the local physician with Montana Sky, so that's coming up August 10th. And then the annual Laughter Asheville Festival in New York. And that's what's coming up.
Thank you, sir. Richard, will you give a report to the YMI?
We are currently organizing this year's Goombay, which will be held September 12th to 15th. And currently we have an exhibit that I would recommend no one in this room miss. It's very moving by an accomplished young artist with quite the resume. Don't miss it. We're happy, we're pleased that he worked with us to be able to afford to bring to Asheville. I think when you go into our gallery and sit down quietly and contemplate what this exhibit is about, you'll be happy you went. Go for a lunch hour, whatever you can afford, every time you can, but don't miss it.
And why do I do this every time David Starkey is in the room, that I do not mention that the Asheville Lyric Opera is presenting next week, South Pacific? David, it is a brilliant thing when you show up that I just bypass you. So, next week, South Pacific, 3 performances, and his tickets are going very well. Don't tell David, he'll ask me for another advance. But his tickets are going very well, so please do come see it, because tickets, we probably sell out all of these shows.
When is it again?
Next weekend. Next week.
3.
Well, thank you, Richard. David, glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn, can you give a report for the organization?
Yeah, just 2 quick things. We have a new exhibit that opened by one of the few recognized African-American artists of the WPA. His name is Doc Thrash, actually invented a printing process called carborundum printing. It's very interesting. He originated from Georgia and then spent most of his professional life in Philadelphia. Great exhibition. And probably the biggest news of the summer is that Sunday is the Big Crafty. It's an event that everybody seems to enjoy, draws a lot of people downtown, wonderful things for sale. So come, shop, enjoy yourself.
Is there any new business? I think we're through then. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.